Hi everyone, we're going to practice on these equations again a little bit more today. They're getting longer and longer. So on Tuesday we worked through some of these equations. What I asked you to do was write the equation and then solve using inverse operations for these even problems. So if I did a problem like number 6, it says I think of a number, let's call it x, and I multiply it by 3, and then I add 2. I divide the whole thing by 4, which means a division at that point, and the answer is 5. And we talked about how we do those, how we undo those steps in reverse order. So the first thing I would undo here is undo that divided by 4 by multiplying both sides by 4. So a little dot times 4 times 4. On the left, what happens is those 4's cancel out. That's really just 4 divided by 4. And I'm left with 3x plus 2 equals, and on the right is 20 now. Now I will undo the addition of 2 by subtracting 2 from both sides of the equal sign. I get 3x on the left and 18 on the right. Now I'll undo the multiply by 3 by dividing by 3, and again we use a little fraction bar to represent division, and x equals 6. Okay, so that was your homework for the other day. Some of you were able to do these in your head without the equation, but what I want to focus on today as these get longer is writing the equation first and then doing the same thing. We're going to use those inverse operations. So I've made up a few of them. I'll work through them with you, and then your homework is going to be to do I think 4 or 5 more of these questions, and focus on writing the equation. So here's the first one. I'm thinking of a number. I'll use a variable. I'll use an m. I think of a number. Check, that's my m. I add 5, so I'm going to add 5 to it. Then I divide that result by 4. So I would need a fraction bar, excuse me, under the entire sum m plus 5. So I'm dividing by 4. Then I add 9 to that answer, and the result is 12. So I have a few extra steps from the ones we started with the other day. What number was I thinking of? Write an equation and solve. So the first thing I'm going to want you to do on your homework is write that equation out. I should see a variable. I should see all the steps, okay? We're practicing writing equations as well as kind of organizing ourselves on the page here. All right, and that was a 12. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to solve that equation by going in reverse order. So let's see, the result was 12. That's great. I added 9 as my last step. So to undo that plus 9, I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So again, organizing myself on the page here, I have minus 9, and I chose that minus 9 because plus 9 and minus 9 go to 0. On the left-hand side, if those go to 0, all I'm left with is m plus 5 over 4. I could write plus 0. I don't really need to. Equals gets carried along, and then on the right, 12 minus 9 is 3. Okay, so I undid the adding by 9. Now I'm going to undo this step, again going in reverse order. Undo the divided by 4, and the opposite of divided by 4 is times 4. So I'm going to write a little dot, or I could do parentheses, times 4 on that side and times 4 on this side. And again, what happens here is this whole thing is now times 4 and divided by 4. Now it's just multiplied by 1, which leaves me just m plus 5. On the right, I have 12. 3 times 4 is 12. Now I'll undo the addition of 5 by subtracting 5 from both sides. And I get m equals 7. Okay, so I write out the equation, then I solve in reverse order from the things that I had written down. If I check my answers here, let's see, I'm thinking of a number. That number is 7. I add 5, I get 12. I divide that by 4, I get 3. I add 9, I get 12. So I had the right answer. Okay, here's the second one. I'm thinking of a number. I'll call this one W. Thinking of a number, I divide it by 3. And remember, when we're dividing, we don't use the little divided by sign now, we use a fraction bar. Okay, to that I'm going to add 7, so plus 7. And then I multiply by 5. So to indicate I'm multiplying the entire thing there by 5, I need parentheses. So that tells me the quantity of w divided by 3 plus 7 is being multiplied by 5. Finally, I subtract 10, and the result is 35. So is where my equal sign goes, is 35. All right, so now I'm going to undo those steps. There's my equation. First part, write the equation. I'm going to undo those steps in reverse order. So let's see, I don't really need that much. Instead of subtracting 10, I'm going to undo the minus 10 by adding 10 to both sides. And again, the idea here is I pick that 10 because it's minus 10 plus 10. That's going to add to 0. So on the left, I still have the 5. I still have the parentheses and the w over 3 and the plus 7. On the right, though, 35 plus 10 is 45. So I've undone the subtracted 10. Let's see if I go in reverse order again. Next thing in the problem was multiplying by 5. Well, the opposite of multiply by 5 is divide by 5. And I can write this a couple ways. I'm going to draw just a little fraction bar under the 5. I could also draw a fraction bar under the whole thing. Doesn't matter either way. I like it just under the number itself, but it doesn't matter. Also divide on this side by 5. And the reason I like to write it like this with the 5 over 5, that's just 1, right? What I'm left with here is w over 3 plus 7. I don't really need the parentheses anymore because it's just being multiplied by 1. It's just itself. Equals, and 45 divided by 5 is 9. Okay, now I'm going to undo the adding 7, and that would be by subtracting 7. I'm left with w over 3 equals 2. And then I'm going to undo the divided by 3. The opposite of divide by 3 again is multiply by 3 times 3 times 3. And again, 3 and 3, they make 1. I'm left with w equals 6. So let's see. Think of a number. I'm thinking of the number 6. I divide it by 3. I would get 2. I add 7. I get 9. I multiply by 5. I get 45. Subtracting 10 gives me 35. Okay, so we're undoing those steps, but part of the big lesson today is thinking about writing the equation. I'll do one more with you. Let's see, I'm thinking of a number. We'll call this one V. I multiply it by 6. Then I add 3. Next, I divide by 5. So again, the whole thing divided by 5. Then I'm going to subtract 2. Finally, I multiply by 4. So that means this whole thing is being multiplied by 4. And the answer is 4. So what I'm going to look for in your homework tonight, and you are going to take a picture of your work and upload it to Schoology. I'm going to look for that equation to be written out as well as the answer. Some of you can do these backwards in your head, but I want to see the equation written out. All right, let's go backwards. Last thing I did here was multiply by 4. So I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. 4 divided by 4 is 1. This side's also 1. That's okay. All right, on the left, I have 6v plus 3 divided by 5 minus 2 equals 1. So again, all I did in that step was get rid of the parentheses, and that 4 over 4 is 1. All right, took care of that. Now I'm going to undo the subtract 2 by adding 2 to both sides of this equal sign. Gives me 3 on the right, and then 6v plus 3 over 5 on the left. Now I'll undo the divided by 5 by multiplying by 5. And again, you could use parentheses if you prefer. Now that's 6b plus 3 divided by 5 times 5. The reason we picked that 5 is because that's now just times 1. Now I'm left with 6b plus 3 equals 15. Starting to see the end of this problem. I'll undo the add 3 by subtracting 3. I get 6v equals 12. And then undo the multiply by 6 by dividing by 6. And I get v equals 2. Okay, so each of these problems, they can get longer and longer and longer, they're not an issue for us, though. If we know what's happening, the order of operations with it, we just undo them in reverse order. Okay, so your homework tonight, there are 5 questions. They get a little bit longer each time. I want to see the equation written out and then try to solve it. Okay, take a picture and upload into Schoology under submissions. All right, thanks guys, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.